Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours edition. Dave Scott is out tonight, not feeling good, and I am stepping in to make sure the show continues. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we're going to have Geraldine Orozco joining us in a little bit here as we get into some good stuff for hours 1 and 2, and then hour 3 will be joined by UFO Tim James, also Steve Stockton, and maybe some news as well. So with that being said, let me go ahead and see who came in first tonight. According to this here, looks like Race Fan came in first, gets the gold, saying good evening, Dave. Dave is not feeling well tonight. We got Miriam stepping in, saying hello, everyone. Hello, Miriam. And then with the bronze, or the silver rather, and then Road Flare with the bronze, saying hi, guys. Hey, Andrew and Gnomes Express Trucking. Appreciate you coming in. Brown Dwarf as well. Tim James in the back. Scott B, thanks for coming in. Let's see, who else do we have here? Frankie B. Frankie B, thanks for coming on in. Shelly Montgomery, thanks for coming in. Eternity Eternal. SJ. Melvin WD 40 getting us lubed up and ready for the show. Robert Lamont Jr., thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Susan Place, thanks for showing up tonight. Doug Shelby, the Doug Shelby is here. Tamoth Band is here as well. Chris Laker is here too. Who else is here? Kurt M. Operation Shutdown. Flat Six is here. Flat Six, how you doing? And Joanne as well. And let's see, Christine Lynn. Let's see, Algaray. Hey, Algaray. Thanks for coming on in. Yeah, positive energy. Let's go. Grandizer 1-2. Marty Burbach is here. Big J21, positive vibes. Let's go. Abbott Hoffman, Dead Fish Cheese Spread. Erico Dion Viglione. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at that. Jessica S is here. Cat Tongue is here as well. Millennium. As we go ahead and get the podcast side started here. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight we have Geraldine Orozco for hours 1 and 2. Then we have UFO Tim, James, and Steve Stockton. Great show tonight. Here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, filling in for Dave Scott, and tonight we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on digital platforms around the world. You can access our archives for absolutely free by going to youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. Get yourself some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to that man right there, Bumblefoot, and oh so much more. Yes, we're going to have an awesome show for you tonight. As I said, we have Geraldine Orozco joining us tonight for hours 1 and 2. And then we have Steve Stockton, UFO Tim James, and then the UFO News for hours 3. So it's going to be an awesome show. Can't wait to go ahead and get in the groove tonight. And we're going to jump right on in with our guest, Geraldine Orozco. Hello, Geraldine. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. Great to see you.
Yes, definitely. Great to see you again, actually. This is back-to-back interviews, and I love it. So we're going to go ahead and get into some good. We talked about some good stuff last time. If you guys missed it, you can jump in the archive at any time and access that last show, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. So, yes, okay, we're getting into the spooky season here. It's October 1st. Are you doing anything for Halloween? Do you decorate?
No, not at all. But, for me, this is a beginning of going deep within. It's the time of coming back into retreat, rest, integration as this year comes to an end. So, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. Because there's always that outlook. Yeah, towards the end of the year, you have your New Year's resolutions, things that you hoped that had gone better for the year, and you're just making plans to have a great new year. What part of that do you think is manifestation? Like, are you able to manifest that by making these New Year's resolutions?
I think that manifestation is a state of being. I think that when, as humans, we learn how to let go of having to control all of the things around us and internally that are creating internal wars inside of ourselves, and we create harmony internally, I think this 0 point is actually the point of creation. And when the human actually enters into that state of harmony internally, what they are projecting into reality can be more clear, can be more focused, more aligned with their higher self, as opposed to just the self-serving ego part of them that is always just wanting to accumulate goods and things around, or trying to change the way that they look, or, I think a lot of those desires can be satiated by the integration of pure self-acceptance. And then from there, begin to manifest on a higher level of things that are truly, truly in alignment with the soul's purpose, with what our soul needs to accomplish, which is always going to guide us into the abundance we need, into the money we need, into the living standards that we need, into the relationships that we need. When we're guided from the higher self, it's effortless co-creation. And I think that that's something important that it's good to remember as we're coming to the end of the year. When we think of resolutions, our entire life should be an aligned, integrated intention. And living with intention is really important in the concept of manifestation.
Okay, and there was another thing I know that we spoke about last time we talked, and it was about something that you say a lot, which is generational trauma and being able to heal that. I kind of wanted to jump into that last time. Maybe we can get into it tonight. What do you mean by generational trauma? Because is it the same thing as, say, myself? I'm obviously African American, and there's definitely been generational trauma within my family line. Is that the type of um, generational trauma that you talk about? And then, if so, how do we go about healing that?
Yeah. So, well, trauma is any time we are in a circumstance that we don't know how to react and then integrate. Okay. So, anytime that we are, so as children, we're born, and usually we learn how to respond to events and situations based on how our parents reacted to those things, how they responded, how they chose to react and interact in those circumstances. Most of our reactions, most of our beliefs of how we need to hold emotions, how we need to express emotions, how we need to protect ourselves or control ourselves and things around us. All of those concepts are usually handed down through the generations. And if you look at parents' generations, you begin to see where they got their ideas and concepts on how to survive. What are we all surviving? We're surviving unknown circumstances. It's the unknown situations in which we don't know how to navigate or handle. And the human doesn't know how to handle the unknown because they are deeply disconnected from themselves. And our guidance system becomes externalized with other people that also don't know how to handle the unknown. Okay, so managing the unknown and managing circumstances that are new for us as humans, experiences that are new, um, usually are invitations for us to come into deep integration with ourselves, which means that we are connecting with our emotions, we are connecting with our actions, and we are constantly testing to see if they are congruent with our core values. So, what happens when we encounter situations that are not in alignment with our core values, not in alignment with our known understanding of reality and experiences? We experience trauma. So, for example, severe wars, generational traumas, like, for example, discrimination or, any kind, all of us experience these things on different levels, but as groups on this planet Earth, we also experience collective trauma. Okay. And collective trauma can be any kind of unknown, difficult situation that groups and families of people have experienced together. And the way that they reacted or didn't know how to react to that circumstance stays programmed in their body as emotional responses, as nervous system memorized. So the way that our nervous system reacts to things, whether we contract our muscles, whether we feel relaxed or super stressed out and fearful, those are all programmed in our body epigenetically. And generational trauma is essentially that information passing down through our DNA down to the generations. Now, it's scientifically proven that we are passed down 20 generations. 20 generations are memorized in our DNA. And for the easiest example can be the example of World War II, in which groups and groups of people experience very traumatic experiences, and therefore the way that they react, let's say it's a fear of being judged for their belief systems. Generations, 20 generations down, the generation is still feeling these insecurities about their worth or about their beliefs, even though they are not experiencing that same collective war. It's the same thing with what happened with the plague. Survivors of the plague, generations down the lineage of people that have experienced the plague are tremendously traumatized about rats. They cannot, they have this incredible subconscious terror around rats. As we know, the rats are the one that pass the plagues around. So these are like little examples of how we pass down this generational trauma. And essentially, how we alchemize that is first by understanding our human nature. The human navigates the physical terrestrial realm in a more fluid manifestation, healthy way by integrating themselves. And the more connected we are to our intuition, the more connected we are to our truth, the more connected we are to nature and the natural cycles of life and death through our body as we experience them, the easier and more intuitively we can navigate these shocking, adverse kinds of experiences that cause pain and suffering to the human. And we begin to deprogram the learned reactions to these things and program a more harmonious state. And essentially, I guess the lesson of every single human incarnated in this terrestrial three-dimensional world is to understand that you are a pure creator, and that essentially everything is an experience for the purpose of your evolution. And if you can continuously be congruent with yourselves and be in the 0 point, you are naturally evolving with the natural cycles of the universe that allow you not to experience trauma and suffering continuously. You actually alchemize that from the beginning. So we can change generational trauma by being observant of when we are triggered. Every single one of our triggers is exactly telling you where your traumas, your limitations, and your blockages are. And simply by changing the reaction that you have to the triggers is what's going to reprogram your entire system. Your system is neurological, psychological, biochemical, and bioelectrical. Okay, so biochemical is essentially all of the chemicals that are released with every emotion that you feel. And every emotion is a bioelectrical charge that you're charging into the system. So this is how we are generators. We are literally innately conduits and co-creators of experiences. And every emotion that we feel in the body is generating the field of attraction around you. Majority of people are experiencing generational trauma because you're completely unconscious, just repeating what is known. You're just repeating the cycles of father, repeating the cycles of mother, great grandparents, so on and so forth, and even socially imposed concepts of living. We are simply cycling unconsciously in those patterns. And really, until the human becomes aware of that and breaks those patterns, the human isn't really accessing their free will and creating and experiencing life from a pure form of creation. And we are basically bound. We are thinking, we are in this illusion that we are bound to our suffering, that we are bound to experience trauma. It really takes the courageous soul that is now embodying the new human, which is the human that is willing to break those old patterns of reaction and behavior to triggers, to break generational trauma in the moment, every single moment. So, for example, Rob, you mentioned African American. Every time that we start to feel the feeling of being judged or looked at funny or feeling differently, the moment we interrupt that cycle in the body energetically, we begin to change. And I experience the same thing in my own life. I'm from South America, so I have the same kinds of things. As soon as we start to experience these reactions, these contractions in our body of feeling in any kinds of programs of unworthiness or not good enough, or any compartmentalization that any social group wants to impose on another, those are things that we have to break through as quick as possible in order to see ourselves as these energy bodies. And that's a way of thinking that we are hopefully bringing in through our actions and how we hold space in this world with our own communication, the way we express and connect with humans around us. So this is something that we are kind of rewriting from the inside out.
Wow, awesome answer there. And yeah, I was thinking about this, and yeah, we have these traumas, and I think the one of the bright things, the bright sides to this whole phenomenon being able to come together like this is I see a lot of people, different races, different walks of life, And I would say, if not speaking for them, but as far as humanity goes, it would seem that they, are compassionate and empathetic when it comes to others' traumas. Therefore, it would appear that they would actually have some level of trauma themselves. So, and I know I'm that way as well. So I know I take in other people's traumas too. I did want to ask you, in this moment that we're in, with the ontological shock. Okay, let's just go to the stigma. So we know that we had a crash disk back in 1947 in Roswell. Stigma started from there. Do you think stigma itself can equal out to trauma, and could that be a whole new line of trauma that we would have to deal with, and maybe try to find a way to protect our kids and grandkids from inheriting that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, it comes down to beliefs, what we believe and how we create the beliefs that we have. The beliefs that we have are essentially they're entire constructs that we don't realize what a belief is. A belief is a pretty serious thing. A belief, okay, a belief. Here's what I mean by that. Beliefs can be changed instantaneously, also. Okay, but what I mean is that when we hold on to beliefs and we reinforce them by continuing to support that belief over and over again. And essentially, we prove to ourselves that our beliefs are true because subconsciously, because that belief is ingrained in us, it makes up our facial expressions. It makes up the way that we communicate and speak. It makes up the way we hold our body. Beliefs make up entire bioelectrical systems in the body. Our bodies are geometric in form. We have certain geometric archetypes and architecture to our physical body. And depending on how we hold certain belief systems, whether it's a low frequency belief or a high frequency belief, it changes the way our body is expressing itself energetically. So really, every single belief is kind of it's creating a wave of energy around us, and people can feel that. People can feel it around us because we are all quite empathetic. Um, sorry, we're quite we are empathic.
Yeah.
So to be able to pick up those subtle forms of information that we're communicating verbally here, but communication is multidimensional. Communication is energetic. It's body language. It's the way that we move our hands, the way that we speak. There's many ways of picking up information, and many of us that are empathic in this way are picking up the information energetically before we pick it up verbally or otherwise. So yeah, so the way we communicate is actually broadcasting waves of thought forms and information before we even encounter communications. So these stigmas, for example, and belief systems that are deeply ingrained in us. Oftentimes, these are manipulations, sometimes socially engineered concepts to create conflict among humans in the way that they believe and perceive reality. And that's a very contracting way of existing and experiencing reality that we need to revisit. That's why our awareness is really important. We have to be able to discern quite clearly, what is real, what is in alignment with truth, with higher truth, as opposed to a contracted state of limiting belief systems that we're adopting by stigmas or cultural belief systems or societal belief systems. Usually, they have a very purposeful intention of control behind them to control innate curiosity and creativity of the human. So this is something that we have to be aware and always question our beliefs to see, are they truly in harmony with greater truths? And the kind of truth that I'm talking about is a truth that is collective. So what is true for you internally, and is it also true for the collective? Okay, so is it something that is in alignment with the collective, that is harmonious to the collective? And if it's not, then we need to expand that perception, and that usually creates a lot of healing for individuals and collective groups.
Yeah, we're getting into healing talk here tonight. I wanted to know, because we focus so much on disclosure and what are going to be the effects of disclosure, post disclosure. But I would want to know, even prior to disclosure, is there a way? So, say disclosure wasn't even on the table. Um, what would be the best way to kind of raise the frequency of the planet, right? Because we have all this war and all this crazy stuff going on. So if we separate disclosure from that, because we're hoping that is the saving grace and that turns everything around. But leading up to that, how do we change the frequency of just, day-to-day life?
Yeah, so I think our attention, we have to remember, the fundamentals of social engineering, that and also remember how collective timelines are created. We are creating collective timelines with our subconscious belief systems. And each individual is participating in what is happening in the whole world outside of us. How? When we are disconnected from ourselves, when we create internal wars with ourselves, when we hate ourselves, reject ourselves, judge ourselves, that energy, that frequency, that state of consciousness, that state of awareness is exactly the same energy that causes wars collectively. That is the core root fundamental belief structure that is feeding into the foundation of wars. So we need to understand that our duality internally, that we continue to feed and to grow and cultivate within ourselves, is what is projected into the world outside of us. So our job is nothing more than to focus on ourselves. And it's important where you put your attention, because if all your attention is externalized to the external uh, things that are happening outside of you, emotionally, you put a lot of emotional charge, anger, frustration, feelings of deep injustices that are happening in the world. We have to understand that that's energy that feeds into these collective experiences, and that the human actually doesn't cause any change in the world by feeling those emotions, by feeling those ideas and concepts. In fact, we feed into the suffering of the collective in that way. Energetically, we are bioenergetic beings. Again, your emotions, every single one of your emotions is an emotional charge electrically that creates a network of energy in this entire system. So I think it's important for us to understand the responsibility of our co-creation, the responsibility behind the emotions and thoughts that we're feeling every moment, because those are the ones that are going to change collective timelines. If you begin to heal yourself, integrate yourself, your suffering, begin to change your story from being victimized or traumatized or hurt of the past into the now moment of the present, in which you are here and you are well. You're not dying, you are well in this moment. So to integrate that and to come into harmony with that wellness every single moment, that is changing completely your bioelectricity of your body, and it's also changing the input that you are participating to the collective. So if we want to change the world, this is how it's changed. um, Also, those of us that are parents, everything that we feel, we are transmitting into the child. All of our fears, all of our insecurities, all of our doubts, our angers are being transmitted into our child as well. And now we create another generation of further propagation of this duality and suffering.
All right, we're gonna put a pin in it right there as we get ready to go to break and come back with Geraldine Orozco getting into some deep stuff tonight. You definitely want to make sure you stay tuned for this as we come right back right after the break, Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. All right, clear. Oh, all right. How have you been, Geraldine?
Great, Rob. Wonderful. Thank you. How about you?
I've been doing okay. Been doing okay. I just came back from out of town. Went down to LA. Had to run a couple errands today. Yeah, just getting back not too long ago, actually.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, I'm so glad you're able to fit in for Dave. I hope he feels better.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, I have something in the oven. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna
Yep.
take it out. Be right back.
All right. Let's see who else has come in. We had Karen in the Woo Train show up. We had who else? The last minute here. Warden Dragon came in. Channel Warhorse resident. And then Dead Fish Cheese Spread. Yeah, Dave's not here. Yeah, Dave's not here. Dave's not feeling well. He is not feeling well. Channel Warhorse, Mr. Rob G. The planet is a body like human, understanding UFOs, thus the healing to light. She talks about the one law that can be deployed to try and do what you say. Okay. That's we are in school tonight. And let's see. What do you mean by frequency? I don't know how else to say it. The frequency, the energy, energy probably isn't the well, maybe it is the right word. It's a form of energy, right? The frequency that we tune into. And that probably didn't answer it for you either, did it? Let me see. Purple Cup Fish. Thanks for coming in. Rich Buddy. If Dave might be watching, he could be. I know he was not feeling up to doing much at all when I talked to him. So maybe he's not. Yeah. Yeah, Brown Dwarf. I was in El Monte, El Monte, Rosemead, that area. Oh, I like that. I like that, Eric J. Belief system equals BS. I like that. I really do like that. Yeah, I didn't know how far that was from you, man. I was in and out. I was in El Monte, Rosemead, in that area off of what road was I on? Valley something. I don't remember now. Marty Burbank says his home is Pomona. Okay, I wasn't too far from Pomona. Yeah, Valley Boulevard. Yeah, exactly. I think it was Valley Boulevard. Yeah, Marty. Do aliens visit during war times historically? Is there any data like during World War One or two, or now as Mid East fights? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of evidence of that. A preponderance of evidence, actually. All right, and here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio After Hour Edition. Filling in for Dave Scott as we come back with our guest, Geraldine Orozco. You guys remember, you can follow us on social media, X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Don't forget to go ahead and hit that follow button. Also hit the heart. I think the heart is on X. Definitely hit the heart as we get back into the conversation here with Geraldine. Okay, yes, Geraldine. So we were just getting into this here. I wanted to get into more of the healing energy, the power of healing energy, because I'm big on that, and I think that's a real thing. When we look at like Native American tribes, just Native tribes in general, uh, that healing energy is something that they speak about, a lot and often. Are you able to define like healing energy, and what does it take? How could a person go about or not really manifesting, but pulling that out of themselves?
Yeah, so I call it cultivation of our life force. And so, what we're learning to do is we're learning how to manage our life force, basically, is what we're doing. We are made of life force. Every single cell of our body is oscillating to create an energetic field that is pure life force. And we are essentially a holographic organism made of variations of frequency that makes up this entire body. So when we talk about healing energy, all we're doing is we are bringing things that are out of harmony, disharmonious, or disconnected back into reconnection, back into harmony. That's all that healing really is. So these concepts of healing, for example, even healing trauma psychologically, is all just coming back to the innate, authentic self, learning how to come back to that childlike state of innocence, because as children, we are born innately connected to everything. And we usually have all of our centers open. Our intuition is open. We can connect to information. We can see a lot more things. Many children are able to see many dimensions as a child. And it isn't until they start experiencing and adopting the belief systems of family and friends and, that they start to hide those parts of themselves, those innate part of themselves, which are the healer. They are their own healing system. So then we develop illnesses and we become ill. Now, illnesses can also be passed down generationally, and sometimes ancestral lineages have been suppressing their life force for so many generations that illness has become a part of their blueprint in order for one soul at some point to wake up consciousness and begin to change their patterns of behavior in order to change the way that they're holding life force and break that pattern and heal themselves. But yeah, so everything is energy. We are surrounded by energy. Remember that our bodies are multidimensional. There's the entire morphogenetic field, and then there's the physical body. Our DNA writes 2% of that in order to create the protein of this complex organism. The rest of that is the morphogenetic field, which functions as an instruction manual from which this form is manifesting. So when we talk about healing, most of us not accessing that immense infinite potential of life force that is available to the human is because we sever our connection to our source. We block it off. Our attention is blocked from the heart, from the throat, from our truth, from our vision, and from our intuition, and it's completely directed to the physical realm, to the sexual energies, to survival mechanisms, to the feelings of anger, disempowerment, judgment in the solar plexus. So the first three chakras become the centers of creation, and those are very slow moving frequencies. It's a very dense manifestation of life force. If you're only managing your physical world from there, it's going to be very hard for you to heal yourself or heal others, because that frequency is very dense. It's very limited. It's only one part of your entire complexity of reality. So the human in order to heal, has to move out of their way, which means expand their heart, their throat, activate their heart, their throat, their third eye, come into love, come into compassion, utilize and exercise the higher faculties of themselves in order to anchor higher bands of frequency and channel their life force fluidly through the body without resistance. Most of our suffering is a result of control, this illusion of control, this illusion of resistance that we have against our own potential. And that's really what causes suffering to the human. So healing is just a matter of redirecting our attention from the material, from the external to the internal, and from letting go of resistance and control to being. When the human allows themselves to be, that's when the human most comes into harmonious alignment. And that being is a state of non-judgmental observation of your surroundings without, again, trying to control, manipulate, change. Just allow the things to happen, and the way that we react to those experiences that are challenging to us, whether we find out that we have an illness, the way that we respond to it, we have to remember that response is the same energy, the same pain and suffering that first created an environment for the illness in the body. So we need to interrupt our patterns of belief in order to allow ourselves to channel higher bands of frequency, open up the energy centers, which are the chakra system, and anchor source into the body. In order to heal.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've told you about this. I don't think I have, but when I got into the idea or opening up to the idea of healing energy, on it being something that actually heals, was a situation I had, and I've told this on this channel before. I'll give you the brief one or version. I had a puppy, or have a puppy still, and she contracted parvo. She was really small, like she could hold her in one hand, and she was pretty much at death's doorstep. My daughter had woke me up at one morning and told me that she had passed away. And at that point, I had literally buried maybe 2 or 3 other puppies that contracted parvo in that litter. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we go. And I really didn't want her to go. I was like, ah. So I go and I come in there. I'm kind of, I have all this anger in me, sort of. I'm like, okay, where is she? And so we have a little doggy couch. She had her sitting on the doggy couch, wrapped up in a blanket. And I'm like, okay, so I go to pick her up. I'm about to take her out to bury her. And then as soon as I touch her, she jumps. Like she just jumps. And I'm like, okay, she is not dead. She's alive. And I sat there and I literally rubbed her for the next 4 hours while talking to her, rubbed her, get her blood flow going, talked to her, and she became more and more alert, gave her water, more and more alert over a 4 hour period, to a point to where she was almost fully recovered at the end of the 4 hours. And I always tell people about that because I didn't feel like that was me healing her. I felt like that energy was coming through me to heal her. So I don't know how it happened, but I saw it in front of me happen right there. And that was just amazing. And it let me know that healing energy is a real thing.
That's absolutely right. That's so beautiful that you were able to do that. And all of us have this healing ability in us. And we are programmed to believe that we are helpless to illness, to things that happen in our physical body. But I know for a fact, not only, my own healing journeys and stories, which I have millions of them, but also working with clients, that when we begin to connect to that subtle point of compassion and love, that pure love and that intention of healing, intention is really the driving force of the direction of our energy that we can direct at anything. And it can be something harmful, and it can hurt people and make people suffer as well. So we have to understand that as beings of consciousness, where we direct our attention is is creating, and it can be creating, counter creating, or it can be creating. So either it can result in death or it can result in life as you're healing. So simply all of us have that ability. We have healing ability through our hands. The palms of our hands are portals. We're made up of thousands of portals in the body, inside and outside of our body. And the main ones that are managing the energy centers are the main 7 chakras, but really it's 13 chakras that are managing this entire dimensional realm. There's many more, but those are the ones that we mostly are accessing at all times. And so when we begin to come into the heart center, especially because the heart is the largest magnetic field of the body, we can channel this infinite potential which runs through the body, through the arms, through the hands, and then bring healing into something. I also have a similar story of a crow that it just dropped dead in the backyard of my parents' house. And, crows are huge animals. They're actually big, and so we just went to grab it. And I'm bringing source light into the body, into my arms, into the crown of my head and my third eye, channeling it into the little bird, and it came back to life. And that happened a couple times, but we think of these as one-off stories. But if each of us would learn how to cultivate our life force and learn how to come into this intention, in that moment, you had an intention to help this organism, this little animal, and you brought it back to life. So yeah, there's many ways of learning, and in 2013, after my abduction experience, when I became fully psychic after that experience, that's when I began to see the world in the form of energy, and that's how I learned about how the energy is moving through the body. Essentially, seeing energy moving through my own body, seeing energy moving through others, or maybe the lack of movement of energy through people's bodies, helped me understand the difference between what is the way to hold energy in a form of life-giving vitality, and how to hold energy in a form that results in death and illness. So we are highly intelligent beings, and in our bodies we are self-organizing infinite potential, rays of different colors, days of energy, frequency that we are channeling for healing. Now, every single color is a different frequency, and every single color can be directed to the body to help heal different parts of the organs as well. We are so intelligently organized that the way that we channel energy and emotion can be seen in ranges of colors of the rainbow that are, refracting light, white light. So one of the most powerful healing energies, most neutral energies, are gold and white light. So if you don't know how to see energy, or if you're confused about what energy to use for healing, you can always use white or gold light. That is really powerful healing. And, because of the self-organizing mechanisms of nature and animals and people even, whatever energy you're bringing through the white light, because white light is all the colors, the body will intelligently know how to move the energy to heal the person or animal. So we just need to allow through our body to bring that. And also, one last thing is that when you are healing, or when you're attempting to heal, remember that the energy is not your energy that is being transmitted. It is infinite potential that is moving through you, that you are simply channeling through the body. And it's really important to understand that, because as healers also end up getting very sick because they don't realize it's not their energy that you need to move through you. It's the infinite source moving through you that you have to allow. When we give our own energy and our own life force for healing, we become ill, or we take on things from the people we're healing, or from the little animals that we're healing. So I see a lot of the, co-creative exchange of energy and information. The best way of seeing that is between owners and pets, by the way. Pets always have contractual agreements with their owners, and they provide healing and emotional comfort for the human. And it's important for the human to wake up consciousness in their own suffering, because a lot of times, sometimes the pets take on the suffering of the owner, and they contract severe illnesses, or they contract severe problems and ultimately end in death and suffering. So these are contractual agreements that are made between the owners and pets that, it can be many past lives, or it can be things that the little animal contracts in order to remove from the family, so that's also another interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want people to know, because I'll tell you what, prior to that incident taking place, I would try to formulate an idea of what healing energy was, but without knowing it or experiencing it, it's definitely different afterwards. And so I just want to tell people out there that healing energy is a freaking real thing. It went through me and it brought this puppy back to life. I'm telling you, it did. And then the experiences you talked about with the crows as well, I'm
Yeah.
totally on board with that. I could definitely see how that would happen. It's same thing, that same exact situation. So yeah, it's just amazing to know, what we can be used for. And then the other thing about that is, which I didn't say, um, when she was brought back enough for her to sustain herself, I slept for 2 days straight for
Another. Yeah.
and didn't really understand why. I figured it might be connected to that, but I was drained energetically, slept for 2 days straight. And I thought that was insane.
Yeah.
It made it real.
Right, right, right. That's amazing. So, I mean, you could be a super powerful healer, by the way, Rob, because you know how to use this energy. So, it may have been that you gave a little bit of your energy away in that, especially if it was an emotional situation. Our emotions are energy too. So, sometimes when it's emotionally charged, we become that drained where we can be so exhausted like this. And there are some tools that we can learn, each of us, in order to heal in a way where we don't get tired. That's something that healers need to learn. Yeah.
So what would we look like in your eyes? What would we look like once we figured it all out? What do you see the human being once we figure it all out?
I think that the human experience is not intended for us to figure it all out, to be honest with you. This is my opinion, of course. I believe that the human experience is one fractal of many experiences that our consciousness is experiencing. Okay, so
Mm,
our consciousness is refracted into fractals. This is one fractal. There's another fractal of me in the Pleiades. There's another fractal of me in the, I don't know, some other planet system, um, and another timelines of reality as well.
okay.
When we sleep in dream time, we're accessing those. And those experiences that we have collectively, this consciousness is learning, observing, and evolving through all of its fractals. So this human incarnation, this time, let's say I'm Geraldine, you're Rob, and this current construct that we're sharing here, we are meant to ascend, um, in in order to create the highest vitality, longevity, uh, and healing as possible. Uh, and it's not that our intention is only to heal. Our intention really is to experience. In my opinion, we as consciousness, and the reason why is because the only thing that we can control in this construct is ourselves, and from that learning to control the self and our emotion and our perceptions, we create. That's how this construct functions. So it's kind of inside out. We learn it the opposite way. We think that we have to control the external and have this illusion of control, and then our life will be what we think it's supposed to be. But we are actually innate pure creators, and because creation is infinite potential, you can create anything. The human has to learn how to allow for that, and that's one of the most important parts of the human experience. And this is why we exist in a construct that is rooted in duality. We have these two energies that we are constantly moving and experiencing and learning through. And the integration of both of them is actually the powerhouse of creation of the human. So it's a very interesting experience that we're here to share on the planet Earth. But when the human experiences the alchemical marriage, what is the alchemical marriage? This is what the concept of marriage is built on, our human concept of marriage. The marriage of a man and a woman, right? That creates a family, then creates a child. Well, that in a fractal form is what we're learning how to do psychologically, spiritually, emotionally in our energetic realm. We are marrying the feminine and masculine energies and dualities within ourselves in order to birth pure creation into our everyday experience. So our ability to do that results in the healing of the body, results in the activation of our higher faculties, and where our superpowers are available to us, our vision, our very clear discernment and vision in order to navigate this physical realm in a way that is conducive to our health, our abundance, our money, our harmony. So it's not just, it's not unimportant that we focus our energy on and our attention on the integration of our duality. I think it's the pinnacle core foundation of co-creation. So I guess to answer the question directly, we are creating ourselves as we go. And we are, most of us, we know suffering really, really well. We know suffering inside out. We know separation, we know suffering, but we don't know love. We don't know peace. We don't really know harmony. And I think the invitation for the human is to learn how to embody harmony, how to embody peace, how to embody love, and how to exist from that place in your everyday life. How can you do that? So many people think that's impossible. Well, how is it impossible? We have very limiting belief systems about what this construct can be, should be, and we have to understand that our belief systems are weaponized. Our own emotions are weaponized against us to create limiting belief systems in this realm, and we have to wake up consciousness in order to understand that. Because the human that is disconnected from themselves and their emotions and what their creating potential is the perfect consumer, the perfect repeater of the reincarnation cycle, the perfect slave of the system, essentially. And we're feeding a system of suffering and despair for humanity. So I guess the ultimate goal, if I don't really believe in an ultimate goal, as I mentioned earlier, but an invitation that the human has is to exist in harmony, and from there, bring the rest of the human race into harmony through your experience. Yeah.
Okay, and let me ask you this, as we got about 30 seconds left here. It's a quick answer here. Do you think, okay, so after the human experience, and I guess we could finish talking about this in the second hour, after the human experience, what do you think is next?
Yeah, so I think that we tend to want to see things in a linear timeline. And actually, the way that this construct functions is a sphere. The time is kind of like a sphere. Everything is occurring and existing simultaneously. So actually, we think it's an end, but it's just a continuum that we just continue. We are infinite potential, temporarily experiencing the fractal of this physical vessel. And when we feel that we're done experiencing everything that's necessary to experience, usually it's a collection of frequencies. When we collect all the frequency experiences that are required for our soul, we essentially begin to move into a next frequency that is in alignment to create a new body, a new life, a new kind of experience in another timeline. But yeah.
All right. We'll get into more of that in hour number 2, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. Off camera. See you in 5 minutes. welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, filling in for Dave Scott. We have about 30 seconds before we come back from our radio break. Get your questions ready. If you got questions, definitely put them in caps so I can go ahead and tag those questions for our guest tonight. Let's see. Awesome music. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. And here we go. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2. Filling in for Dave Scott tonight. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. We're back with our guest, Geraldine Orozco, talking about spirituality. Guys, if you're already on social media, remember, you can go ahead and follow us anytime, X and Instagram, at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. We would appreciate it, for sure, as we get back into the conversation. So, Geraldine, I just wanted to start this hour off with, okay, these extraterrestrial beings, we assume that they're more spiritually advanced than us. Do you think spirituality applies to them? And then if so, are they here to raise our frequency, or are they here just to watch, not to intervene? What do you think?
You know, in their constructs, they exist in different dimensional timelines, and those dimensions are more complex than their dimensional plane. For us, spirituality is simply the awareness that we are more than physical. Okay, that's simply what it means to be spiritual. We believe and we understand and we integrate the truth that we are more than physical. We're actually non-physical. So they already understand those kinds of laws that we are learning about ourselves, that we are learning to remember, that we're remembering really as this fractal of experience in the physical realm. But but evolution, on the other hand, is another side of it. Evolution is that we are ascending or existing in a higher octave of frequency. We are ascending in levels of frequency. And the awareness that we are multidimensional is the rising of frequency, because what that means is that you are, from your vision, the vision of man can usually see only a certain limited colors of light. But when they begin to use their third eye, when they begin to activate the seventh, the eighth, they can see much more. They can see much more. They can see people that have passed away. They can see entities, dead people. They can see aliens, beings, and they can begin to see that we are constantly interacting in many dimensions at this moment. So the evolution is to integrate the experiences, not only of your terrestrial experience, but also of your interdimensional experience. And the evolution to exist in harmony in all those dimensions that you are touching, that you're experiencing. For higher octave beings, they have something similar in terms of evolution. Just as we are becoming united with ourselves and the universe by becoming aware of ourselves in many dimensions, they are also working towards unity in their way, from their perspective, from their dimensional construct. And all things, at least in these immediate multiverse, are kind of working towards a unity of some kind. I'm sure there are other universes and other constructs that are operating towards a different direction or a different means of creation. But everything is following the natural cycles of ascension, of evolution, which means that a more whole, a more truthful, a more complete version than the before each time. And that's kind of what they're also doing. They are more aware of the same way that we go out in dream state, out of body, and begin to navigate higher dimensions. They are more consciously aware, and they are more integrated in their purpose of the interactions that they have with the beings that they're experiencing in other dimensions. So for us, we experience those dimensions when we are in dream state. And then when you're more awake, when you're more conscious, you experience them in your waking state. You have interactions with these beings. So they kind of operate in that way. They are interacting with us. We are interacting with them. When we interact with certain beings, we have contractual experiential agreements with them. So both of us are evolving through the outcome of the shared experience that we have. And that's why ET contact and the experiences that you're having interdimensionally, they're important for us to become lucid in those experiences and to recover your memory, because most of us are disconnected from our memory at birth, and progressively we disconnect more and more from that memory until we experience the law of accident, which again forces us to move back into alignment with the evolutionary collective frequency that brings back those memories again. And those memories are helping you on the path of these contractual agreements that you had already signed up for. So what are you supposed to be doing in your interactions with these beings? What are the exchanges, the mutually evolving exchanges that need to occur in your interaction? Every human has to become aware of that, because that's how we exercise free will. I think the ultimate opportunity of all beings is the experience of free will in pure creation. So that requires us to let go of limiting belief systems, of constructs of how exchange needs to be, how experiences should be, in order to grow in that way. And we are training for the next octave of a frequency, of existing in a higher frequency. This is what all the ancient civilizations have done. They have trained how to walk in death, as they called it, or be lucid in their dream state in order to prepare for death, because we continue on when we leave the body. Sometimes, and through hypnotherapy, actually, I'm revisiting these realms in which it seems that when we die, we enter into another octave and we continue on sometimes storylines that we already previously were interacting with, so for example, just yesterday I had a client that was dying, leaving the body, and then they find themselves, after they go through channel of light and then go through the universe, they find themselves becoming conscious as this other alien being, this alien planet. And they begin to become aware of themselves interacting with other beings. And they had a similar storyline on that planet as this person just did when they passed away from the past one. So it's almost as if we continue these experiential lessons until we reach some sort of wholeness with one another. So the aliens are also fractals of ourselves. They are also experiencing on a much higher octave those same kind of interactions. Now, here's another part that's really important. Most of the aliens or interdimensional entities and beings that humans interact with usually are within the 13 dimensional layers of this construct. Why do I say this? Beings that are beyond the 13th dimension are usually even a higher octave, which means that they interfere less, and they are also less and less form the higher the dimension they come from. Okay, so their laws of interaction and exchange become more instantaneous, more energetic, more fluid. It's about color, light. So let's say the lesson of love for them is going to be changing a color from blue to pink, and that entire experience was an entire lifetime for them. Okay, and it can be billions of years, or it could be 5 seconds. So we are evolving in that way, but usually those higher vibrational entities and beings and aliens, they don't interfere with you. It's less of an experiential agreement. That's why, sometimes those interactions can be parasitic, because it's about exchange. It's still under the film of duality. So, yeah.
Yeah, some people, you touched on a couple of cool things there. Some people look at reincarnation essentially as what you were talking about there, as reincarnating here on the same planet. And for me, it just, it doesn't make sense to me. I've always felt like with everything being about energy and we're all connected to a bigger energy, a higher energy, and then assuming that there's like a source energy that is above everything else, that you would probably have similar experiences on some level, whether you're human or alien, just on another planet. And then essentially, I felt like it made more sense that if you were to pass on, then your energy, once it leaves your body, that it essentially goes back out to the universe. So it could reconvene on some other planet as some other life form. I would think. I wouldn't think that it would be just specific to coming back here onto this planet when we're talking about that. Another thing I wanted to ask you is that, if we're to look at what extraterrestrials may know knowledge wise about spirituality and say they're 100 million years ahead of us, do you think that there's a point that you can get to where you know everything about what spirituality is? Because you know, I feel like if we were to meet one of these extraterrestrials and hold a conversation, they would probably know a lot more than we know if they're further advanced just based off of that. But I would think that, once you got all the information out of them, I would think that they are also still looking for answers to questions that they've had for millions and millions of years. So I'm trying to figure out if there's ever a point where, you figure it all out, or is it to never be figured out?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. First of all, when I deprogrammed myself the first time, 2013, my questions were about, who's in control, who creates these constructs that we all seem to be abiding by, okay? And that led to the awareness of aliens for the first time in my life as aliens, because before I just knew them as lights or, beings, or, I didn't have that lingo, the word to explain that. Fast forward to 2017, I kept deprogramming even more, going back to the 0 point, more, deeper layers of understanding, deeper layers of integration. My questions started to become more universal. And there was a point where I opened the channel so broad that in that moment, I knew absolutely everything that there needed to be known. I can even access past timelines. I can go back to Egypt. I can go back to the future. I can move freely through these realms of information. And what I realized is that most of us are barely touching the realm of information called the Akashic records, which are basically the DNA of the earth. They are the memory system of the earth, which all humans are incarnating from, deincarnating from, and incarnating from in order to pick a lifetime that is contributing to the collective evolution of the human body. But beyond that, those constructs don't even exist. You see, that it's very specific to the three-dimensional earth plane that we keep thinking about spirituality in the way that we do, which is, it's very specific. But the access to infinite information is absolutely available through the body, through the 0 point. The cultivation of the 0 point, you can access the Akashic record through the development of your third eye, of your seventh and eighth chakra. Your seventh is your relationship with the higher self. Your eighth is a relationship with source. The more that you shift your perspective to viewing the reality from these places and you integrate them into the physical, which means you're balancing the rest of your chakra bodies, you can channel any information. And that's what every single channeler has done as long as they keep the channel pure, not tainted by the ego in any form. You can also taint the channel with the ego, and then have filters of your belief systems and what you're seeing, and the way that you even interpret this universal information can still be in the construct of the human, which is a mistake, because then you're not really seeing the whole picture. So, that's that about the information. But essentially, you cannot even possibly begin to know everything at all, simply because we are limited by the construct of the physical. The human body will serve as a limitation as long as you're in the body, which is why you can access more information in dream state than you can in the physical body normally, unless you really cultivate that awareness, as I'm just explaining to you. And there are people that have done that. I've experienced that, and there are many people that have developed that and sustained that. It's a way of living, it's a way of being that we must sustain. But we are barely scratching the surface of information, barely, even in all the things that we know. And even further, the higher the dimension I navigate, because I navigate a lot in dream state, it's not even necessary for the human to know so much, really, to be honest with you, because sometimes information interferes in the purpose of the incarnation, which is the experience and the ascension. So the other thing I wanted to say about your previous comment about reincarnation, we incarnate in other dimensional realms if and when in this terrestrial realm you are not absolutely attached and identified to the physical experience. So if you are completely attached to your identity, to your physical matter, your house, your car, your children, your family, you will reincarnate. And that's why we have many generations of ancestral lineages that keep coming back, because of the severe attachment, the trauma, the generational trauma that has not been transcended in these ancestral lineages. So those are things that we need to become aware of, that the more attached we become, the more limited, because at the time of death, there are physics to the death. And the human, when we are oscillating at a high vibrational frequency, your vortex is moving super fast, then you can move from one octave of frequency to another. But if you're moving super slow, you don't really have a lot of moving room, because you're physically, the body is incapable of going beyond that, because you have created severe attachments to this realm. So that then it becomes a little difficult. And I see that in my hypnotherapies all the time. The humans don't go beyond. It's lifetime after lifetime after lifetime in the physical realm, or lifetime after lifetime in the immediate universe. They don't go beyond. As opposed to other souls that have been reaching higher octave of consciousness in many lifetimes, they go everywhere. In the hypnotherapy, we can access really high levels of consciousness and awareness. And those are the people that channel these informations of communication of aliens and other civilizations to humanity. So that's why, holding our frequency and, detaching from the material physical realm is also very important.
Yeah, okay, so looking at these extraterrestrials, and some people, the perspective is that these things are, the word they'll use is superior to humanity or human beings. Should we even be labeling them as that? Because since they technically would have the same experience that we have, even though they may have been around longer, um, should we even be putting labels on them, like, and holding them above us as some sort of superior entity? Or should we just be looking at them as like galactic peers?
Exactly. And I'm so glad you questioned that, because what I have noticed is that even the names that we have put on these star systems and are the beings that we're seeing, even though etymologically, they have meaning to us, those are all meanings that we have created, and we have designed for them. And meaning, even the words that we speak do have a certain vibrational character. They have a vibrational frequency of creation, and they have a certain geometric form. Every single word has its own geometric construct. You can learn more about, cymatics and centics. There's this book called Centics. That's a fantastic book to check it out, understanding how form and frequency is manifested and how collectively we create and apply meaning to that based on the frequency that we pick up subconsciously from experiences or things that we see. So, but in reality, that's all abiding by the laws that we have picked up collectively from the Akashic record. The memory of the experiences on the earth have very specific constructs of form and meaning, and symbols that we are really constantly cycling through. In reality, and now we're going to talk about DNA because essentially, language comes from DNA. Language is a form. Is a form. DNA is a form of language as well. Because it's a creative form that encrypts concepts into the manifestation of this physical body. But these higher dimensional beings, the kinds of names that they have when they share with you, we can barely even pronounce in our human language. Not even our mouths can even pronounce some of the words and tones that they create. So that allows me to understand that the complexity of those dimensions are operating at different architectural structures. In the way that we have certain platonic forms, platonic elements that are pertinent to our realm, they have more complex constructs. So, and yet we have access to these beings because it's in our DNA. The DNA is the blueprint, which is the so in the physical, it's a DNA, which is a blueprint, but the DNA coils into massive amounts of holographic information. Okay, that holographic information is memory that's accessed through the body through bioelectricity. So the more conduit the human becomes, the more of the DNA memory they can access. So that's why it's really important to become conduits, which means open your energy centers to allow source to move through you without blocking source through your body. It also means that you're embodying the Merkaba, which is a Merkabaic state, which is the most harmonious state for this geometry in this construct. And so the ability to access the memory through DNA allows you to access memory that is a much higher octave, that is still within your collective memory of your body. So that's why in most experiencers are experiencing contact with beings in their dream state, because in the dream state, they can access this holographic network of information without resistance. And we are meeting ourselves. So remember that the concept of being one, it's not just that, between me and you and I have a relative in common. You and I are relatives. If we go back into our DNA, it's the same way. These beings are also genetically connected to us. We are essentially mirrors of one another. And in my research with experiencers, I find that families actually connect to certain lineages of frequencies, what we can call species, in family circles. Where we are born, the countries that we're born are also energy centers of information that are connected to certain star systems in this universe. So our DNA is the link between ourselves and these interdimensional species and beings, and we are very much related to them genetically, energetically, and they are a mirror of ourselves, which is why we have experiential agreements, and we need to understand what those agreements are so that we can collectively evolve, essentially.
That is awesome, and actually a great way to get ready to wrap this half hour up. So I guess I'll save the rest. I have other questions as well. I mean, this is so intriguing, and I'm glad that you're able to articulate and explain this stuff to me here. Because when you get into spirituality, you kind of jump down a rabbit hole, everybody, and it's the onion layer that keeps peeling. So with that being said, we're going to come right back here right after this break with our guest, Geraldine Orozco, enlightening us on spirituality and a host of other things. You guys don't go anywhere. Get your questions ready too. I have your questions. We'll be asking those on the other half of this hour. All right, we are clear. We got about 5 minutes here. Manile Scientist, thank you for coming in. Extreme Acceleration, Channel Warhorse, Live Chat Love. Erico Dion Viglione saying onions so delicious. Yeah. Only when they're fried, though. I can't eat raw onions, guys. I just can't stomach them. May, I missed the edit button YouTube live streams. Hey, May, thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us tonight. Who else do we have here? Gizmo, I didn't see you last time, Gizmo. Thanks for coming on in. And Mothman has it. Geraldine Orozco on YouTube. She goes live, y'all. She does. And that is the link. Make sure you guys go on over there and subscribe.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Oh, Mothman is on it always. Let's see. Who else? Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Geraldine is a goddess of light and love in the modern era. Okay. Like that.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
And Sierra says, I don't think they see us as peers. Maybe like ants. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends. If they have egos, then they might look at us like that. But if they're looking at it like we are, then
yeah, we can talk more about that. That's a good comment. Yeah.
Yes. And let's see. Amy WC, I get all spiritual, then start reading too much news like North Carolina. Yeah, it's I try to stay away from the news. Sad as it sounds, because you miss out on certain things. But yeah, it's too depressing. Amy WC again, the ego is a huge problem across all religions. Yes. Egos and cult-like mentalities, man. That is the danger of that there. And Kira, I am. You snuck in here. Hey, Kira, thanks for coming on in tonight. I see you. Let's see. I think that's about it. Yeah. All right. Let me do have some of these questions already, guys. Let me make sure. LVL said, Rob G, your audio is echoing. That means you probably should go refresh your channel. Refresh the page, LVL. I think you'll be good. Granddad just said, what is Geraldine eating? I ate already, but I can eat again.
I found this amazing recipe for chickpea samosas, and I just made them today. It's so good. I'll share the recipe if you guys want it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're one of those find a recipe and always trying new things, new recipes.
I love that. Yeah, I love to cook. It's really fun.
Yeah. It's a way to put positive energy out there, right? Through a meal.
That's right.
And
Also grow your own veggies. Like half of the things that I put in my samosa are from my little garden, which is another really fun thing to do. You guys should try.
Yes,
You
I
can.
can agree. I can agree.
Yeah.
My mother has a small little garden set up in her backyard, and I go and get fresh everything from her.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Nothing like it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You
It
would
tastes
think
different.
it's something so simple. I mean, you put something in the dirt, grow it, and eat it instead of going to buy it. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. It's not as hard as we think. Yes, I made my own dough. Yes. It's
Awesome.
actually it was gluten free because it was made out of chickpea flour, which is why it was so delicious and crunchy and light. Anyway, I won't bore you, but yeah, that's
No,
fun.
that's awesome. It says Amy WC says, I will talk cooking and gardening to an annoying degree. Hey, that's the thing, man. It's
Good.
just,
Those are the important things, you know.
yes.
Those are important things.
Another commonality, yes. All right, we got about 15 seconds here. I agree to man. Donate to hurricane recovery. And shout out to everybody who was affected adversely as we're coming back right now. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour 1.5, we're already on the back end of the second hour. We got about 23 minutes with our guest here, Geraldine Orozco. So make sure you guys get your questions on in. And space travelers, we're already traveling space, and we're on a rock floating through space. Take the next step and join the club. That's right, you can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. As we go ahead and jump back into the conversation, Geraldine. So we were talking before the break about, asked you, should we be holding these entities, these beings, and using the word superior like they're greater than us, or should we look at them as peers? And we had a comment in the chat that said, they probably don't look at us as peers. They look at us more as like ants. And I'm just like, oh, it just depends if they have egos or not. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Because we are in a dualistic construct, we have to experience positive and negative experiences, and how we manage and how we react to those experiences will define how we're going to hold energy. Okay. Now, basically, we are programmed to see things dualistically. We are programmed to judge things as right and wrong, good and bad. But the problem with that is that our perceptions and our understanding of right and wrong are extremely limited and oftentimes rooted in really false concepts. Oftentimes, those concepts are influenced by religions. In which instill a lot of concepts of shame, of guilt, of sin, and those are very untrue ways of looking at the reality of the human experience. Everything, the shadow and the light, is necessary to be experienced for evolution. The more that we are in states of fear, anger, resistance, separation, the more our experiences are going to reflect that, because we are subconsciously, magnetically attracting through our body those experiences. And it's in waking state as well as in dream state when we are having interdimensional contacts. The majority of people have their experiences in dream state. So we are manifesting those experiences. The whole purpose of negative experiences is ascension, which means when this negative experience happens, are you going to fall into victimization, helplessness, hopelessness, contraction, fear, anger, in which you have no control over yourself or anything else, and then be fed on through parasitically by giving away your power and your creative control, giving away your free will? This is the same thing in your waking state with human experiences as it is in these interactions with ETs. And how do I know this? Personal experience, but also working with hundreds of contactees from around the world, alchemizing our traumatic contact experiences in vivo. Okay, so The moment you are taken and things start to feel dark, things start to feel parasitic and traumatizing, you alchemize your energy in this dream state, in this experience, in this abduction experience that, I don't like to call it abduction. Some people still call it abduction, but in these experiences that are, making you feel afraid, can you shift that fear into love in your body? What happens is it completely changes the experience. And it's happened over and over and over and over again, with working with people that are having traumatic experiences. It is the same thing with parasitic MyLab experiences, although those lessons are more physical. So you really need to hold in your body a higher frequency in order to cloak yourself from these parasitic systems. And I'm speaking from experience. I've been in those MyLab abductions as well. And what I have learned is that the lower your frequency goes, the easier of a target you are, because the more manipulating you are, and a lot of technologies and all kinds of things are used to manipulate the human into vulnerable situations that are easily, basically predated on. A predator is acting upon. Okay, so we become victims, and we contribute to the victimization of ourselves through our unconscious holding of our energy and our life force. So another thing is, because we have contractual agreements with MyLab experiences, with human experiences, and with ET experiences, the sooner we clear out our karma, which means the cause and effect that we are inputting into the system through our subconscious beliefs, to our emotions, the sooner we neutralize all the charge that we put into the past and the future fears, the sooner you clear the slate and are no longer contractually tied to experience traumatic experiences with people and beings over and over again. So we can clear our energetic field. I invite you to clear your energetic field morning and night. If you're a person that has a lot of parasitic experiences, clear it morning and night. Another thing is that when you are experiencing these experiences, if you're experiencing physically harming experiences, traumatic experiences with ETs, we need to learn how to take our power back. Okay, and remember creator states, right? We can create from states of survival, and we can create from unity consciousness. The experiences will be radically different for you. And that's why I'm telling you, the power is in you. You have the power to alchemize, to change, and to choose what you're creating based on the application of your free will. If you don't believe you have free will, if you don't believe you can access and change experiences, then that's why we continue to have these experiences until we realize that we do, and then change them. So from the other side, the ETs that are imposing these parasitic experiences, they're learning the same thing. Okay, so it's the same thing. We're a mirror of each other. In their evolutionary cycle, they feel hopeless in their construct, and they feel that they need to parasite from another human race or another being, another organism, in order to survive, or whatever their belief might be. But I also see that a lot of ET contact is actually quite high vibrational. It's just that the human has a filter of perception that doesn't allow them to see what is really happening, because we are terrified. And I notice this all the time in ET contact. In all kinds of ET contact, we are revisiting traumatic experiences. And when we go into hypnosis, into those layers of the subconscious mind, and the person takes a moment to remote view themselves in the experience and what's actually happening, they realize, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, it's a lab, but there's an exchange of information. And actually, there's some healing that is occurring in my body. So they're removing something out of my body that causes suffering, or they are putting something in my body that helps heal. So we also need to understand that our filter of perception as humans is really limited. And I know some people, they don't want to hear that, because it's easier to come into states of victimization. But the fact of the matter is that we have number one role in the participation of the creation of the interactions that we're having with these beings. And the more we become friends with the unknown, the more we train ourselves to come into neutrality, the more we flow through negative and contrasting experiences, the more we grow. Not only do we grow emotionally, biologically, we grow gray matter in the brain. We become stronger conduits of bioelectricity, which allow us to move freely and apply our free will. But the human is evolving through all these experiences, and we need to learn to see the beauty in that and pull out of victim roles into empowered states of co-creation. I think it's really important. So.
Okay, awesome stuff. And getting to a few of these questions here, we have Sierra asking, Geraldine, I have fear of coming into my power because I was hurt in my past life or lives for doing so. What can I do about this fear because I am meant to come into my power in this carnation?
Absolutely. It's so important. And this specific thing, this specific pain body that you're coming up on is actually something that we're experiencing collectively right now. The entire human race is moving from the ancestral memories of every time we come into our power, we come into a death or we come into suffering and pain. So it's what you're dealing with is a high alchemy moment, okay, that you're actually touching on. And it's really important that we learn how to transcend this fear. How do we come into this fear? We need to learn how to trust ourselves. And that means that you have to see yourself and believe and understand that you are not the physical body. You are infinite potential. You are energy that is temporarily in this physical body. So even if you die, even if you suffer, that is not the end of what you are. You continue to move on. So we need to learn detachment of the need to control, detachment of identities, the identity of being a great seer, the identity of being an ignorant, the identity of being a victim. We have to let go of all the titles and the constructs of beliefs. In our world, we are told you have to pick a personality and you have to stick by it, you have to develop it, you have to look like it, you have to live like it. You know, all of that is to externalize the human attention into distractions. None of that is real. What is real is the cultivation of your energy, of your internal self. And that internal self has no name and has no definition, has no form. That is the true self. That's what has to be cultivated. So the more we connect with that, with the detachment and the letting go of control, of form and identity, the easier it's going to be to allow parts of us to die. Like, and the thing is that we limit our own growth because we're so attached to maybe being the witch, or we identify with the witch. We remember we were a witch in a past life, and then we want to be a witch again in this lifetime. You're limiting yourself. What if you're something else in this lifetime? So people get very, and that's why we experience suffering, because, you know, when these parts of us are called to die, we think it's the end of us. When in reality, we need to remember energy is constantly evolving, and that's how we have to live as well. So trust yourself in all possible experiences, even in death, even in the moment. Do an exercise of meditation where you are seeing yourself at the moment of suffering and pain, and see how you transcend that pain. Remember that the mind has total control over the body. We can heal this body. We can eliminate pain from the body. We can do that instantaneously, just the way Rob told us the story about healing the child, the little pet, the little dog, right? It was a little tiny dog. Yeah, so in that same way, we can do that to ourselves. So we transcend death. That little animal returned back into the body with the intention of Rob. Okay, so we literally need to exercise that awareness into our lives, and we need to understand and integrate that so that we understand that we never die. We never die. So the fear of death has to be dispelled. And October being the spooky month, as we started, the month of death going into October, is the exact invitation to understand leaving the fear of death so that we can come into regeneration in the new year. Nothing died, we transform. And we talk about new you in the new year. You know, you're elevating to a higher octave, a broader octave of perception. So trust yourself, learn to trust yourself, learn to trust your vision, learn to trust your senses, learn to trust what you're feeling, connect with your intuition all the time, exercise 1 month of doing nothing but listening to your intuition, no matter where it takes you, and learn to fall, learn to scrape your knee, learn to get back up, learn to keep walking, okay, until you exercise and teach your body to trust this very complex energy sensory system. And that's how you will regain and transcend this trauma, this ancestral trauma of the fear of letting go of control, because we are pure infinite potential of creation, and we need to allow that to flow through, especially Sierra, finding your highest oracle, remembering what your oracle is and anchoring that oracle is really, really important at this time. So
Awesome answer. Awesome answer. We have Toe Tag saying, do entities communicate with our human cells at the DNA level unknowingly to our consciousness?
I would say that entities, as a manifestation of form of vibrational frequency, is in resonance with our organism, and each one of our cells is oscillating at a certain vibrational frequency based on the beliefs that we're holding, that essentially makes us a magnet to connect with the entity. So in other words, your entire body is vibrating at a certain vibrational frequency that aligns you with the entities that you're interacting with. And that connection happens the moment you decide to hold that frequency. So and this is also how the soul comes into incarnation. Our soul is called into the incarnation, into this physical realm, as a result of all of the choices of your ancestors that require your specific frequency to enter into this timeline of ascension at this time. And your soul is equipped 1000% with all the tools it needs to transcend and elevate into the next octave for the entire lineage, not just you. The entire lineage is ascending through you. So in that same way, we are connecting with the people that we interact with in the waking state and in these interdimensional states. And it's a matter of what your frequency you're holding. So
All
I would say
right.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And we have Grandizer, who basically says, please ask Geraldine to discuss about hybrid children. So I'll ask a question about hybrid children. Actually, I think I asked Deb Shakti's this as well. Why do you think that these extraterrestrials take the children from the mother and then in turn induce like a traumatic effect on the mother and leave the mother with that? What is your answer to that? Why would they do that?
Well, it's the mother that creates the trauma in herself as a result of the lack of awareness of who she is, her agreements to create that child. She doesn't remember when she made the agreements to create the child. She doesn't, and that timeline that she's tapping into because she's waking up is an invitation for her to understand her creative ability and the responsibility behind her creation. So the trauma is caused by the human filter, because our concept of sex is completely upside down. The way that we understand sex is completely wrong. Okay. Our sexual energy is the most important energy of this physical vessel because it's the primordial life force that creates life. And we are creating life. Every human on this planet has hybrid children because we create life interdimensionally, and we're doing it throughout the entire span of our lifetime. We don't know that. Some of us never even remember that we have those experiences because we haven't accessed that frequency within us. We haven't elevated to that frequency yet. But those that do wake up consciousness in the middle of the experience, which is usually when there is a presentation or there is a removal of the fetus from the body. That's just a snippet of a long storyline that the human has been involved with, usually all her life. So this mother, before she continues to traumatize herself and dwell into that trauma, she needs to go and recover the memories of the experience and the agreements that she's made to create the life. We yeah, and so another thing is that not all hybrids are removed. Remember, we're also hybrids. We are hybrids. 100% humans are hybrids. We are hybridized from many species. So we're hybridized because we're all one DNA. And we create hybrids, which are our children. Those are also hybrids. And the children that we create interdimensionally are hybrids. We have to heal all the traumas that we experience in these hybridization programs, because usually that trauma that she has in the dream state of the hybrid birth or the extraction is sexual trauma that goes down the bloodline for many generations. And I see this with all of my contactees, that when we have severe traumas of birthing life or even creation as a female, we hold embedded in us severe trauma about our ability to bring life into this world. And that manifests into the dream state as a very traumatic hybridization experience. It can be alchemized. The healing that the mother does in herself is also going to heal the hybrid child, which exists in other dimensions or sometimes is brought into the incarnation cycle. So there's a lot there, but the mother has a very huge responsibility. Mother and father, by the way, because fathers also become traumatized. They become sexually stagnant and stalled in their creative abilities too. It's all creation energy. So we as humans, we have to heal from this trauma, because usually it's deeply embedded in the ancestral lineage, and it's affecting your money, your abundance, your creation, your health, your vitality. It affects everything. It's one of the most primordial traumas that a human can have.
Awesome answer. Let me see. I know I had one from, I think this one was kind of personal to Shelly. Let me ask. So Shelly says, has Geraldine come across anyone who has mentioned experience of not only one kind of our company, two types, the deceased, and two, something else's in the same area together? She wants to know for personal reasons.
Okay, but let me see if I understand the question. Not only one kind of our company, deceased, and to something else? Deceased. You're talking about dead people, yes? Deceased? Okay, I think I was mentioned experiencing of not only one kind of art. Do you understand the question, Rob?
No, the one kind of our company. Yeah, I mean, we can, Shelly, if you're still out there, could you elaborate?
Can you elaborate, please, Shelly?
And I'll quickly.
I would love to answer your question.
I don't know if she's
into. I guess I think she meant into something else. The deceased into something else in the same area together. Please clarify. I would love to answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. So we have, and off of what you were just saying there, Browndorf wants to know, would semen retention, I guess, be the same as retaining life force?
No, it's a different thing, but this is a very broad topic, hard to shrink down into a quick comment. But I'm going to tell you, the purpose of semen retention is only to alchemize your physical sexual desires from a place of fear and lack and lust into pure love. Okay, so you alchemize your sexual desire from lust into love. That's the whole purpose why people practice sexual retention. And it requires sexual retention because the seed of your semen is holding pure information. Semen is extremely valuable. Men feel exhausted, depleted after the release of semen. So that's all your life force. However, when you cultivate that and you transmute that release into pure love, it doesn't deplete your energy anymore. Actually, it regenerates the human. It heals the human. Okay, and that's how you alchemize your pure life force and use it productively as opposed to counterproductively. Okay. So Yeah.
And right there, I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you at. We got about 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, please connect with me at GeraldineOrozco.com if you guys want to get a hypnotherapy, visit some of your past lives or current experiences. And if you want to get a DNA reprogramming, GeraldineOrozco.com, and my YouTube at Geraldine Orozco. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming, Geraldine. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be back with hour number 3 right after this.
Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, Geraldine. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you so much. And I'm looking at Shelly's comment, but for some reason I still don't understand, Shelly. I'm so sorry. But do message me directly and I'll be happy to answer your question if you want. Much love. See you soon. Bye. Thank you, Rob.
Yep. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 as we get ready to come back from the radio side right about now. Welcome back, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. Filling in for Dave Scott tonight. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to be getting into some Steve Stockton, and also we'll get a visit for the Paranormal Report tonight by UFO Tim James. Space travelers, consider taking the next step and join the club. You can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. Awesome thing to do. As we go ahead and get ready to jump right back into the show, we are blessed, as I say every time, to have Steve Stockton be a part of After Hours. And so we're going to jump into some of Steve Stockton's Missing Persons Mysteries, Tales Untold. Let's go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Welcome to a brand new episode 2024. In this video, we'll take a look at hitchhikers who went missing. Join me. Let's walk and see. Now, they say the road less traveled holds the greatest mysteries. And out there, on the roughly 4.2 million miles of roads and highways throughout the USA, that couldn't be more true. Every night, as the world sleeps, the highway becomes a stage for vanishing acts. It's as if the darkness itself has an appetite, devouring hitchhikers without a trace. Let's discuss some cases in which the following individuals were offered a ride to their destination, never to be seen again. Buckle up, this is going to be a strange one. First up, we have Mitch Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit. Mitchell Weiser, age 16, also known as Mitch, and his 14-year-old girlfriend, Benita Mara Bickwit, also known as Bonnie, were reported missing after being seen hitchhiking along a highway in Narrowsburg, New York. They were heading northwest towards a town called Watkins Glen, 107 miles away. The date was Friday, July 27, 1973, and the couple were desperately attempting to hitchhike their way to the Watkins Glen Summer Jam concert. The concert was a huge affair, boasting performances by the Allman Brothers, the Grateful Dead, the band, and many other popular artists of the time. Approximately 600,000 individuals were in attendance at the concert, earning it a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Out of the massive crowd that numbered well over 500,000, only 2 individuals vanished without a trace, Bonnie Bickwit and Mitch Weiser. No one has seen or heard from them since they attended and participated in the event. Mitch was a resident of the Flatbush neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, and had initially intended to go to the concert with his friend, Larry Marion. However, due to Larry's mother's restrictions, Mitch asked Bonnie to join him instead. Bonnie and Mitch had been together for about a year when he decided to take time off from his summer internship at a photography studio in Coney Island to attend the event. He was determined not to miss it. He was overjoyed when Bonnie, who had been a parents' helper at Camp Wilmette during the summer in the Catskill Mountains, decided to join him. She had attended the camp as a child and cherished her time there. However, when her boss wouldn't approve her time off to go to the concert with Mitch, she quit on the spot and told him she would be back after the concert to collect her personal belongings and final paycheck. With worried expressions, Mitch's mother Shirley and his sister Susan pleaded with him to reconsider attending the concert. Both of them strongly believed it was a poor decision. Yet, he refused to change his mind and was determined to go. Shirley stepped in and offered him some money to cover his travel expenses there and back. At that moment, Mitch was already making his way out the door. It's unclear if he didn't hear or if he was purposely ignoring her, but with only $25 in his pocket, he left without a second glance and never returned. He would never step foot inside his home again. Mitch rode a bus to Narrowsburg and then hopped on another one to Camp Wilmette, where he arrived around midnight on Thursday. By this point, he was almost completely broke. He made sure to call his mother and sister to let them know that he arrived safely, but also that he had very little money left. His mother and sister were understandably worried and tried once again to convince him not to go. But Mitch assured them that he would be fine and promised to see them when he returned home on Sunday. His plan was to hitchhike 150 miles northwest so he could attend the outdoor concert with Bonnie. After spending the night at their campsite, they had breakfast on Friday morning before embarking on what they thought would be an exciting adventure. A kind man in a pickup truck offered them a ride back to Narrowsburg, and they gratefully accepted before making their way to Highway 97. Using a homemade cardboard sign, they hitchhiked and asked for a ride to the concert. When the truck driver glanced back one last time, little did he know that it would be the final confirmed sighting of the two teenagers. As Sunday night passed without a call or appearance from Mitch as he promised, his family grew increasingly concerned. By the next day, they were filled with worry and dialed Camp Wellmet to speak with Bonnie. To their dismay, they discovered that Bonnie also did not return on Sunday, and no one had heard from her either. Susan and Sidney Weiser, Mitch's sister and father, drove all the way to Watkins Glen to search for the two teenagers, while Mitch's mother, Shirley, waited anxiously at home. Meanwhile, Bonnie's parents, Theodore and Ray, were unaware of their daughter's disappearance since they were vacationing in Cape Cod. Upon hearing the devastating news, they rushed to Camp Wellmet without hesitation. They reported their daughter was missing, hoping for assistance in finding her. However, their hopes were quickly dashed as the police brushed off their concerns and chalked it up to another pair of teenagers who had run away after attending a concert. Just 3 days before her disappearance, Bonnie had sent a letter to her parents. In it, she expressed her happiness at Camp Wellmet and how much she valued the freedom she had there. She also mentioned that when she returned home, she hoped her parents would give her more space to grow and travel. This last part gave them hope that perhaps she had gone on a trip and would contact them soon. After the authorities refused to help with any investigation into their missing children, both Bonnie and Mitch's parents decided to let them explore their freedom for a while. They waited patiently for school to start again, hoping their kids were just traveling on their own. However, when neither of them showed up for the first day of school, all the parents feared the worst. Described as a sweet boy with shoulder-length hair pulled back in a ponytail, tortoise-shell glasses, and hazel eyes, Mitch was known for his love of baseball, his girlfriend Bonnie, photography, and the Grateful Dead. He even named his dog Casey Jones after one of the band's classic songs. His friends admired him for being courageous and rebellious. According to his sister Susan, he was a talented and gifted individual. She kept a box filled with her brother's belongings as a memento of the brother she loved dearly but lost too soon. Among the items in the box are his old tortoise-shell glasses, his poetry, ticket stubs from the 1969 Mets World Series, trading cards from the 1964 and 65 New York World's Fair, and a large birthday card made by Mitch's friends on his 15th birthday. At just 4 feet and 11 inches, Bonnie was a petite young girl weighing around 90 pounds. She had a face full of freckles and long brown hair. Her close friends often referred to her as a free-spirited individual with a sweet disposition, sharp intellect, strong determination, and fearlessness. Music was one of her passions, and she particularly adored the Allman Brothers Band. Bonnie was a student in gifted classes, and instead of going to a traditional high school, she chose to attend the experimental John Dewey High School. That's where Mitch and Bonnie first crossed paths and bonded over their shared academic successes. With impressive GPAs and ambitious plans for the future, it seemed unlikely that they would simply vanish without a trace. To make matters more suspicious, they had secretly exchanged wedding rings, leading the police to believe that they may have deliberately disappeared together. Even after 6 weeks of no contact, the police remained doubtful and dismissed the disappearance as simple teenage runaways. Frustrated by their lack of action, the parents of both missing teenagers took matters into their own hands and launched independent investigations, tirelessly working to bring attention to the case. In 1973, despite the passionate pleas for these two distressed families, investigators from 3 different counties in New York chose to ignore their cries for help and refused to launch an official investigation. Despite assurances from the NYPD that they would inform other agencies nationwide about the missing teens, they failed to do so. As a result, the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office also neglected to open investigation on the case. On the 25th anniversary of the disappearance of the teenagers, Bonnie's sister, Cheryl Kagan, decided to launch an investigation to finally uncover the truth behind her sister and Mitch's fate. To her dismay, she discovered that the original case files, notes from investigators, dental records, and a list of potential witnesses had all been lost by both the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office and the NYPD's Missing Persons Squad. As a result, crucial information was not entered into the FBI's National Crime Information Center. A former detective from Sullivan County named Anthony Suarez confessed that he had been assigned to the case in 1994, but never attempted to contact the original investigator or make any effort to solve the mystery of Bonnie and Mitch's disappearance. Anthony Suarez passed away in May of 2020. Now, in the year 2000, a man came forward with a remarkable tale. Unfortunately, it was never confirmed, and the man has since passed away. In summary, he claimed to have hitchhiked with Bonnie and Mitch, who were desperately trying to get home from a concert they couldn't reach. They were supposedly picked up by an orange VW bus, but the driver pulled over when things got too intense. The group stopped at the Susquehanna River for a swim, but unfortunately, both Mitch and Bonnie were swept away by the strong current. The driver left, but promised to contact the police, so the other hitchhiker saw no need to do so himself. Eventually, he did meet with investigators at his own expense, and now the police believe his story is the most likely explanation for what happened to the missing teens. Nevertheless, the families remain doubtful and are waiting to hear from the driver or any other potential witnesses. However, despite their efforts, no one has stepped forward with any information about the incident. This case remains unsolved.
All right, that is Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. Awesome stuff. As always, you can go to Steve Stockton's YouTube page, Missing Person Mysteries, Tales Untold, and get more of what you just heard here. We do appreciate the being a part of the After Hours radio show. We're going to go ahead and jump into our next segment here of the night, which is the paranormal news, or paranormal report rather, and we'll be doing that with our guy here, Tim James. All right, as we welcome Tim James in for the evening, filling in for Jax on the Paranormal Report. Hey, Tim, how you been?
Good. How about yourself?
Been doing good. Just came back from Los Angeles, had a great time out there.
Nice.
Doing the show tonight, and now I'm sitting here with Tim James. What could be better?
Well, I don't know, but I appreciate it, and I enjoy sitting here with you too, Rob. That's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, actually, it's not a paranormal thing. Since it was, we're both covering from people this evening, I'm going to jump into a little bit of some Sasquatch and Bigfoot stuff.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So didn't get a lot of stuff today. I was just peeking about and kind of new, and it was kind of a lot of fun actually jumping down rabbit holes. But I noticed there was a couple of stories from my area or close to my area in British Columbia, and actually I found a ton through a certain stretch of southern British Columbia and up into like Kelowna and Vernon and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought I'd share a couple of those little stories, and then yeah, I've got a really weird one at the end that it's just one of those what the heck. So without any further ado, so this took place in Kelowna, and this is all written by the experiencer, the person that had the encounter with the Sasquatch. So as it starts, I was with a girlfriend taking a drive down McCulloch Lake Road. She wanted to show me where a group of them were camping the weekend before. So it was around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and we arrived at a small turnoff located next to a small creek. The moon was super bright that night, so we decided to get out of the car. At the end of the parking lot was an overgrown road that seemed to go straight along a creek or alongside the creek for a while, maybe a couple of 100 feet. We started walking down that road and we were talking and whatnot. I'm looking down at the path when out of the blue in front of us, maybe about 5 feet, there was a huge figure. At first glance, I thought it was a dead person hanging in a tree. But as I looked down at the ground, I noticed its feet were flat on the ground. We were so close that its silhouette had blocked out most of the moon. I could clearly see brown, shaggy hair and its size. I'm 6'2", and it towered above me. I could reach 8 feet with my arm fully extended, so I figured it would be in that range for height. One thing I hear people say is that they notice a very pungent smell, and I didn't notice a smell, no movement, no noise. Well, at that point, we both had realized that what we'd seen and something very large and unexplainable. So we turned and ran back to my car. I was parked approximately 220 feet from there with my car pointing straight down the path. I turned my headlights on and to see what we had just seen, but nothing was there. The next day I drove back to see if, it were possible that a larger cedar head was blocking the path, but there wasn't any trees on the path, at least of that size that he'd noticed. Only small alders mostly lined the creek side. I didn't tell anybody of this story for years and years for the sake of embarrassment and ridicule. I haven't even ever been in contact with that girl for the last 19 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Creepy stuff, right? That's so Bigfoot, Sasquatch. The thing I don't ever want to meet in the forest. You've had your own experience with what may have been Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
How does that story resonate with you?
Completely. I get it. I know how it probably is heartfelt, but a completely different situation. When we went out, it was one of those, we heard the noise, the flashlight came over, and from where I was standing, all I could see was like the outline of something. And at first I thought it was the shadow of a tree. So, and then it walked backwards in a 45-degree angle away from where I was standing. That was freaky, but cool. I don't know about walking down a path, with a girlfriend or whatever, and 11 o'clock at night, and then walking into something that's 5 feet away from you. I think that would affect me a lot differently than my experience did.
Would you find yourself going back out into the forest again?
Me for sure.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of. That's the way I was raised, right? Hunting and fishing, and where Dave and I live in this area up here is all forest, and there's and lakes. So I'd go back. I might bring somebody with me. I don't think I do it alone, but I definitely go back and check it out.
What do you think the disappearing is all about from your perspective?
That is so weird. Like I've heard so many it's not, well, I guess speculations, but so many different theories of why they disappear. And I really don't know. I can't make an educated guess. I always thought, like, growing up, they just kind of and disappeared out of sight, like camouflaged out, and they were still visible matter, I guess, is for lack of a better term. So that's the way I always thought. I thought they just kind of slipped out of there, and then you were like, where the heck are they? And they were out of sight before you knew it. But I know that Davis said that he's seen it almost like turned into a mist, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that disappearing is. I don't know, cloaking? I really don't know. What about you?
So many different theories there. Yeah, I mean, it's just the cloaking, where they're still actually present. Then you have stepping over into another dimension through a portal, which a lot of people talk about portals. Then you hear people talk about the orbs. They see the orbs afterwards, so maybe it turns into an orb and then goes to that. That's why I would love, to have as much data. And one of the reasons why I plan on going out, it's the only reason why, really, because I really don't want to see one. But if I would like to see one for the sake of confirmation,
Yeah.
Just so it can satisfy that thirst there, and then I can speak to it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. These there's a lot of stories that I've heard. I've talked to so many different Bigfoot researchers, and everybody seems to have a different opinion on why they disappear or just their being in general. So I'd like to streamline that a little bit if possible, just to kind of get a general idea of what the group of people think, to kind of figure this thing out.
Yeah, kind of get rid of all the gray matter, I guess, and get it down to the fine print. I agree. I see it the same way. But yeah, it's just there's so many different theories, and it's nice. I mean, because everybody, I don't see any huge debates, or I haven't seen anybody freaking out, about their different ways of thinking about it. But yeah, trying to understand it. The orb thing, that's sort of what I experienced before I saw that, because not far from where I saw the supposedly where I allegedly saw the Bigfoot, whatever. I guess to the south of us, approximately, I don't know, 300, 400 meters in Canada. So, what, half a kilometer just about. There was a pond, and I could see the lights. Like I said to Dave, and we had a bunch of people up there. I said, "You see over in that pond down there?" And they weren't orbs, but it almost looked like um, the top of the water was getting boom, different colors: green, boom, purple. Yeah, that night was pretty spectacular. We even got little tiny. We don't have fireflies up here, but little tiny glow lights like fairy lights behind Dave. Yeah, so it could all be connected. Who knows? But yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I like to try to marry the whole Star Wars analogy into it, right? Because Chewbacca supposedly is a Bigfoot, and he's on a ship, and he's on a spaceship, and it would make sense. I've heard someone give a good one analogy about Bigfoot and say that their idea was that you see them because they are like enforcers essentially, and they're like keeping people away from what the actual ETs are doing in the forest, and they're like guards. And that's kind of what Chewbacca was in Star Wars. So is there, I don't know. No. I just haven't had a sighting period, so I can only speculate, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it is very cool, but like I said, I wouldn't have a problem going back in. I know even with the experience that Merle and Dave had when they were out, I know that Dave was adamant that he wasn't going back out there, and I understand why. Like, I mean, I'm not going to reiterate his whole story because we've all heard it, I'm sure, but I was like, how can you not go back? I just kept thinking that. But I could see he was seriously concerned. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I might not want to go back as quickly as I think I might. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would love to. Man. I mean, I guess the fear factor is enough to keep people away from finding out more about what it is, I guess, because if you feel that feeling, you have to trust your gut and you got to go. You can't stick around because then you might not be coming back to tell the story, right? So
100%. No, you definitely got to trust your gut out there. But interesting stuff. And there's so much of it. Like you said, I'd like to see it narrowed down a little bit. So we kind of figure what we're looking at or what we're supposed to be looking at least anyway, right?
Yeah, I can tell you won't find out watching those some of those TV shows that they have on Discovery or his. You won't find the answers there. That's
no, definitely not.
So with that being said, we're about to actually go into a break, guys. Please don't go anywhere. We got about a half hour left in the show, and we are going to be right back right after this break. You guys get your popcorn, come back, get ready, because we'll be back in just a moment. love that Western theme. That love.
It's awesome. Very cool.
We got May saying, we know Bigfoots are aliens, meaning, yes, they have a seat in the Galactic Federation. That's all I'm trying to figure out. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's
you
cool.
know, Chewie was on aboard the ship, right? So they say Lucas got information on some of that too, same way Spielberg did. So, yeah, I don't know. If we go look for Bigfoot here in California, we have the Sierra Nevadas that run pretty much up the whole state. But when you get up north, the entire northern part of California is all forested.
Right.
Goes into Oregon and then into Washington. Just a big mass of forest.
Yep.
You got to figure something's going on out there.
Oh, for sure. Pacific Northwest, and especially, I mean, they're all over the place, but through Oregon, but Pacific Northwest, I guess, on the west side of Washington State, across from Vancouver Island, in through there, that's like a natural rainforest in there, right? I think we're about 5.5 hours north of that right now. But yeah, down in there, it's super, super lots of sightings and stuff. Washington, Oregon, Northern California for sure. I mean, all over the place. It's amazing. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
Even in the old cultures, right? Like in First Nations and cultures and stuff like that, the stories go back forever. And it's like, okay, so 25 million people can't be wrong.
That's the part that gets me. That's the part that gets me. That's so it's part of the native folklore, and they've talked and also different cultures as well. And there's just too many people that say, well, like, why would so many people say that they see this thing? Now, I do obviously believe that there's some people who absolutely haven't seen anything, but they kind of just piggyback off the story. But I've talked to people where I've looked at them in their face,
right,
and you can tell something happened.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, for sure. For sure. Doesn't matter if it whatever, ghost, Sasquatch, whatever it may be. Yeah, you can tell. You can definitely read a person when they tell you the story. It's like, okay.
Yeah. But I would like to know, because like I always say, there should be, especially within Bigfoot research. If I were a Bigfoot researcher, if I were to put that hat on and I'm out there, I would want, being that you can have moments where you feel like, okay, I need to get out of here.
Yep.
I want to put a sign up then. I want someone to put a sign up that says, beware of all, not just bears and mountain lions, but also Bigfoot as well, because you should know that it's out there, and you should be able to make a decision on your own whether you're willing to take a risk or not.
There are some up here. I've seen them on the trails. Yeah. And I don't know if they're put up by the parks people, but there's enough of them out there that you go, okay, even if it's a lark, right? It's like, oh, that's still good warning, right?
That's amazing. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, you betcha.
Then I've heard of Texas, right, where you think of it mostly as a plain state, just flats. But apparently there's areas of Texas where they have wooded areas, and they talk about Bigfoot out there as well. That blew my mind.
Yeah,
in the plain states.
Yeah, no kidding. No, well, I mean, as somebody that's not from there, from a plain state, yeah, I just think of it like up here, Canada, you've got Alberta, Saskatchewan, and they're like just like a tabletop and wheat, right? And it's like, yeah, you don't see the forest, or you don't think of the forest up there, and there's tons.
Yeah, and they have these sightings, so yeah, one day I'll keep asking those questions, because I talked to too many Bigfoot researchers. So
yeah,
I'm gonna figure it out. And then Brown Dwarf, I'm gonna go up with Brown Dwarf. We're gonna go to the Patterson Gimlin location up in North Valley. Yeah, yeah, we just got to set it up.
That'll be a good time.
Yeah, it will be. And then I'll be coming back to the show like, guys, you will never believe what I saw in the forest.
Yeah.
Sasquatch is real, X, Y, and Z. That's why I want to be able to come back and make that announcement.
That would be awesome.
It would be. Because we got about 10 seconds here.
All right.
Right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour 2.5. As I'm filling in for Dave Scott tonight, and we're going to go ahead and jump right back into the paranormal report. We have Tim James, who's also filling in for Jax tonight. So we're going to get back into it, but I definitely want to make sure if you're on social media, on X or Instagram, at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show, please consider giving us a follow. We would appreciate that so much. As we get back into it, Tim, so did you have another story as well?
Yeah, I've got a couple here, but I want to make sure I get this one in. So I'm doing a little bit of a left turn, but we're still talking about Bigfoot.
Yep.
So, all right. There may be some triggering involved with this, so everybody, please just breathe. All right. So an Oklahoma man, this is recent. An Oklahoma man has received a life sentence after he was convicted of murdering a friend he believed to have summoned Bigfoot. Larry Sanders, of 55 years of age, was sentenced to life in a state correctional facility without a chance for parole for killing Jimmy Knighton, according to the court records. Sanders was found guilty on one count of first-degree murder in connection with Knighton's death at a non-jury bench trial in April. So the Seminole County Sheriff's Office and Pontotoc County Sheriff's Office received calls for a possible homicide on July the 10th. That was ultimately the day that Crichton's body was discovered. The deputies, along with the assistance of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, began questioning Saunders, who reportedly confessed that he had killed him, but he choked him, but didn't want to kill him. So according to Sanders, he and Knighton left for a noodling trip on the afternoon of July 9th. So noodling, I think everybody knows what that is. It's a popular fishing method in the U.S. South. Anglers will use their arms as bait, allowing the fish, often catfish, to swallow up their arms past their wrists, and the anglers lift the fish out of the water. So Sanders reportedly told law enforcement that he hit and strangled Knighton, killing him. Law enforcement caught up to Sanders on the 9th of July, and investigators said they found him telling another family member the same story. When asked why he killed the man he had reportedly considered a friend, Sanders said he was afraid that Knighton had summoned a Bigfoot to kill him and eat him. So his statement was that Mr. Knighton had summoned Bigfoot to come and kill him, and that's why he'd killed him, says the sheriff. During his defense trial, Sanders took the stand and revealed that not only did he believe Knighton had powers to summon Bigfoot, but that he'd actually saw the 12-foot creature standing downstream from him in the river while they were noodling. Sanders said Knighton was pressuring him to submerge himself to catch a fish, and claims he saw the man howl into a drainage pipe. Sanders said he was afraid that when he dove underwater, Knighton would hold him down and then feed his body to the Bigfoot. The tensions reportedly led to a physical fight later that afternoon, which ended in Knighton dead. Sanders' defense attorney argued that he acted in self-defense and had only been trying to gain control of the conflict when he strangled Knighton, not intending to kill him. He was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to life. So, yes, there was a monster in the woods that night, but it wasn't Bigfoot. It was Larry Sanders.
Yeah, geez, okay. So he killed him because he thought he was going to summon Bigfoot and he was going to feed him to Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was
no, go ahead.
No, I was waiting for the part while I was reading when I was first reading this. I was waiting for the part was, and they found 2 bottles of Wisers or Jack Daniels laying on the shoreline or something. But, oh
or
my goodness!
moonshine or something
And
where they're
right?
noodling at. So yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I would figure it'd probably been more likely to say he was gonna feed me to the huge blue catfish that they're sitting out there noodling for one. Those are monsters,
Yeah.
prehistoric monsters. So and then yeah, but with the whole Bigfoot thing, so I think it's looking at it, I think there's something to be concerned about there. And
Hmm.
and I think it has to do with the whole mental state of humanity and the ontological shock of finding out this stuff is real because I don't think that'd be the last time something like that would happen.
Yeah.
I think when UFOs becomes a global thing, there's going to be a subset of people who won't be able to take it,
Hmm.
and they may be the ones going around doing things just like you mentioned in this story here. That's one of the fears that I have with the
Right.
information coming out. So even though it's a jokey and it's
Yeah.
funny,
Hmm.
but there could be a dark side to it as far as like what we may be encountering in the future with a group of people who just can't handle knowing what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I mean, it would obviously tip, I would say, 99.8% of the world on their head. But yeah, I think there would be a lot of people that would find that hard to adapt to. I mean, understandably, right? And who knows? And that's the thing. It's either fight or flight, human nature, right? And if you're that freaked out, you're either gonna, you know, take off and get lost, or yeah, just like you say, you're just gonna not gonna be able to handle it. And everything's gonna be, fight, fight, fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, you think of like we had an example of that Heaven's Gate, even though it wasn't essentially like that, but the action was prefaced off of the reality of extraterrestrials, and not just that they were scared so they did what they did, but
Mhm.
there was still the extraterrestrial connection there. And I think you'll have a group of people who will say they're doing this in the name of aliens, or they're doing this because you're going to feed them to a mantis being, or
Mhm.
something along those lines. A lot of those excuses I think will probably pop up, which is it, like I said, there's a dark period that we're gonna have to go through,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be a lot of that mental stuff that you just mentioned there.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I don't know what to do about that. It's scary, but it's a future that we have to embrace, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and figure out how to navigate.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no rules to this game, I suppose, and there was no instruction manual. Well, I didn't get one when I popped out. So yeah, it's like anything. Being a parent doesn't matter. Then there's no instruction book for this stuff, and what gets thrown at you, I guess, is you're either gonna you try to deal with it the best you can, or not bother. And yeah, but the not bother, I get where you're coming from. That kind of scares me a little bit too, because what does that what does that entail, right? So,
And they didn't find any moonshine or any bottles of Jack Daniels, so this guy did this probably sober, which
mhm,
is even more scary on top of all that.
no doubt, no doubt. And
So
then,
with
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking that it's like, man, I don't know. That's yeah, my brain's just going at 1,000 miles an hour here. It's like,
Yeah. You're creeping me out tonight, Tim James. Usually you don't. Usually it's UFO news, but with the cryptid report, you got some creepy stuff.
yeah.
Did you have anything else for us tonight?
No, not really, Rob. Just basically a couple little short stories to kind of entertain a bit, and then yeah, that was it, my friend.
All right. Well, short and sweet. That's the way we like it. So, what we'll do is go ahead and jump into UFO news. Then, Tim James, thanks for coming in with the paranormal report, filling in for Jax as I'm filling in for Dave Scott. We will see you next time, man. Take care.
You bet. Thanks, man.
All right, later. All right, guys, that was the Paranormal Report with Tim James filling in for Jax tonight. And we are going to go ahead and jump into some UFO weird news. I got actually halfway through one last night, and we actually had to stop for the end of the show. So we're going to go ahead and finish that and give you a couple more here as we jump into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. But I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, the UFO and weird news of the week. So we started this story, and we'll go ahead and start it over and finish this for the viewers who were tuned in. I believe it was Sunday is when we did this. So it's a top doctor who fell into coma explains what he experienced while in heaven. American neurosurgeon Dr. Eben Alexander claims that he reunited with his sister in the afterlife. A top doctor who claims to have visited heaven while he was in a coma has revealed what he experienced, which left him convinced that there is life after death. American neurosurgeon and author Dr. Eben Alexander explained that he felt reborn after suddenly regaining consciousness while doctors were weighing up whether to continue providing him with life support. Talk about in the nick of time, eh? The medic's life changed forever in November 2008 when he woke up one morning with a searing headache while working at the Lynchburg General Hospital in Virginia. Within a few hours, I went into a coma. My neocortex, that part of the brain that handles all the thought processes making us human, has shut down completely, he explained. It was determined that Alexander was suffering from bacterial meningitis, which was eating into his brain like acid and inflaming his spinal cord, and his chances at survival were little to none. The academic who taught brain science at the Harvard Medical School was experiencing seizures, and doctors decided to place him into a medically induced coma to give his body a chance to recuperate, even though the prognosis didn't look good. Quote, I was in a deep coma, vegetative state, and all the higher functions of my brain were offline. An excerpt from his book, The Map of Heaven, said as per the Daily Mail. Quote, scans showed no conscious activity whatsoever. My brain was not malfunctioning. It was completely unplugged, but my inner self still existed in defiance of all the known laws of science. Alexander admitted his line of work had made him skeptical about patients claiming they had experienced out-of-body experiences, angelic encounters, and hallucinations, as he believed it was the brain's way of coping with trauma. Quote, and then in the most dramatic circumstances possible, I discovered proof that I was wrong, the neuroscientist said. For 7 days, as I lay in an unresponsive coma, my consciousness went on a voyage through a series of realms, each one more extraordinary than the last, a journey beyond the physical world, and one that, until then, I would certainly have dismissed as impossible. Now, what he saw, Alexander explained that the medical records for every minute of his coma show zero indication of any brain activity, which he believes proves that what he experienced was not just unfolding inside of his mind. After slipping into the coma, he recalls feeling as though he was in a primitive, primordial state that felt like being buried in earth. But he was aware that this was not the world he was familiar with, as he sensed, heard, and saw other entities. Alexander described what he witnessed, quote, after an expanse of time had passed, though I can't begin to guess how long, a light came slowly down from above, throwing off marvelous filaments of living silver and golden effulgence. Quote, it was a circular entity emitting a beautiful heavenly music that I called the spinning melody. The light opened up like a rip in the fabric of that coarse realm, and I felt myself going through the rip up into a valley full of lush and fertile greenery where waterfalls flowed into crystal pools. There were clouds like marshmallow puffs of pink and white, Behind them, the sky was rich blue black. The world was not vague, he said. It was deeply piercing, alive, as vivid as the aroma of fried chicken, as dazzling as the glint of sunlight off the metalwork of a car, and as startling as the impact of first love. It was paradise, and Alexander wanted to travel into it deeper and deeper. He describes heaven as being a vast, various, and populated as Earth, but says that nothing is isolated, alienated, or disconnected there, adding, everything is one. Alexander explained that while soaking up the sheer beauty of the place, he eventually encountered an infinitely powerful deity who he referred to as Om, who served as his guide. She was an extraordinarily beautiful woman who first appeared as I rode as that speck of awareness on the wing of that butterfly, he said. I never seen this woman before. I didn't know who she was. Yet her presence was enough to heal my heart, to make me whole in a way I'd never known was possible. Her face was unforgettable. When she looked at me, I felt such an abundance of emotion that if nothing good had ever happened to me before, the whole of my life would have been worth living for that expression in her eyes alone. It was not romantic love. It was not friendship. It was far beyond all the different compartments of love we have on earth. Quote, without actually speaking, she let me know that I was loved and cared for beyond measure, and that the universe was a vaster, better, and more beautiful place than I could ever have dreamed. Being reborn, she reassured Alexander that he was loved, cherished, and had nothing to fear, which he said his alleged time in heaven was utterly wonderful experience. Meanwhile, he'd been in a coma for a week and showed no signs of improvement, prompting doctors to consider whether they should turn off his life support, but he then suddenly regained consciousness. Quote, my eyes just popped open and I was back. I had no memories of my earthly life, but knew full well where I'd been. He explained, I had to relearn everything, what, who, and where I was. Over days, then weeks, like a gently falling snow, my old earthly knowledge came back. By 8 weeks, my prior knowledge of science, including the experiences and learning from more than 2 decades spent as a neurosurgeon and teaching hospitals, returned completely. Quote, that full recovery remains a miracle without any explanation from modern medicine. After his near-death experience, he felt like a different person due to the things he had experienced, and he found it especially difficult to get Om off his mind. But everything made sense when the doctor who was adopted as a child received a letter 4 months later. Alexander explained he remembered nothing of his birth family and grew up not knowing that he had a biological sister, Betsy, until he later went into search of his parents. But for Betsy, it was too late. She had died, the medic said. This is a story of how I was reunited with her in heaven. One of his relatives, whom he had been in touch with, sent Alexander a photograph of his sister, which solidified his alleged afterlife experience. Betsy was the woman he had encountered. The shock of recognition was total, Alexander added. The moment I realized this, something crystallized inside of me. That photo was the confirmation that I needed. This was proof beyond reproach of the objective reality of my experience. From then on, I was back in the old earthly world I left behind before my coma struck, but as a genuinely new person, I had been reborn. That is an awesome account right there of heaven potentially. Yeah, definitely like that story. So we'll go ahead and jump into the next one here. Man asks bank for $2 million loan to put on red and black and gets a abrupt response. A prankster, we hope, has gone to the bank to ask for a loan of $2 million or 1.5 million euro to put on roulette at the casino. Yep, he really did this and posted the cringeworthy encounter on social media. You may have considered getting a loan for your first home, car, financing, or your wedding, but I don't think many of us could walk into a bank with the confidence to ask for money to gamble with. The viral clip begins with the man walking into a bank and asking where he can go to get a loan. Speaking to the first woman, she asks if it's for business, to which he simply says, yeah. 4 words for you. Just hear me out on this. 2 million on black, he states, much to her confusion. He tells her it would be an investment on their end for him to win at the roulette with the $2 million loan, which in all fairness seems to play along. She seems to play along with for a while, letting out a chuckle after asking what it has to do with the loan. Nevertheless, she redirects him to one of their business officers. After the business officer asks how he is, the jokester says he could be a lot better in the next 10 minutes before explaining why he needs a loan. He mentioned that he wants a $2 million loan, to which she says, I need to see financial statements, tax returns. If this is for a business, we're going to need business financials along with the tax returns for the business. Standard stuff, only he doesn't have any of these, and he says he is running a casino business, so he doesn't pay taxes. The cheek of it. Calling it a quick turnaround investment, he finally reveals that he wants to put all $2 million on black, to which she simply says no. Going on, he says it's 50-50 that they profit off his potential winnings, to which she continuously says no, but lets out a smirk as she realizes that it's all a prank. Speaking about the possibility of it not working out, he joked, if not, you guys will probably never hear from me again. Sounds like a good deal. Asking if they do loans for gaming, as he had been gambling for the last year, she states firmly and keeps saying no. She did apologize about not being able to make it happen, though, before the two went their separate ways, though the whole ordeal tickled a lot of viewers on X. One user said, I bet you somebody tried this before and it worked. Obviously, they probably faked the business to get a loan, but this would be insane to pull off. Another joke, give it 5 years, they'll be calling this guy with high interest loans offers LMFAO. Third posted, it would be funny if he turned around and deposited the $2 million in the savings account and paid the bank back with interest. Fair play to him. Going into the bank is daunting enough, but asking for a gambling loan, hats off to you. That's an awesome story. And man, just think if something like that were to work, right? It is 50-50. It's a 50-50 if you bet on red or black, or if you bet on odd or even, because I've done a lot. When I do play tables, I play roulette, and there is a system to it. So there is a 50% chance that he would immediately doubled his money and been able to immediately pay the loan off and walked away $2 million richer. Would you take a risk like that? Because it could go bad too. We'll never know. But if you do, let me know as we get ready to get up out of here for the night. I want to thank everybody who came through. A lot of people. We had Geraldine Orozco, our guest for hours 1 and 2. Awesome stuff. We had Steve Stockton in hour number 3 with Mrs. Perfect Mysteries. We had Tim James filling in for Jax on the Paranormal Report. And we have this man that you hear right here, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Dahl. The man is rocking us out each and every weekend as he reminds us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomena is real and anything and everything is possible. So show your love for tonight's show. Put your horns up. Also, we want to thank our viewers online and listeners on terrestrial radio and digital platforms when and wherever in the world you may be listening from. We appreciate you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, this show is copyrighted Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. It's been a pleasure serving you again as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, nah, this is not a goodbye nor farewell. However, as we go off air for the night, best believe we will see you next time. Much love to everybody out there. Take care. Let's get up out of here. All right, done, and done. Great show. Thank the guests again, Geraldine Orozco, for coming in. Let me pick her brain on a lot of the spirituality stuff. Great conversation there. If you missed any of that, definitely hop in the archives, youtube.com/ at Spaced Out Radio. You can catch that. You can even catch the other interview we did with her about a month ago. Awesome stuff as always. Once again, thanks to Steve Stockton, Missing Person Mysteries, for just being a part of Spaced Out Radio After Hours. We do appreciate the contribution each and every show. And Tim James for coming in, just being his usual awesome self. I want to thank him and thank each one of you for coming in tonight. Whether you're on YouTube or you're out there in Xland or maybe watching from Twitch, definitely appreciate you all. We can't do it without you guys. And we're just going to get up out of here. We're going to keep it classy and get up out of here just like this. You guys take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.